I chose to do question 2C where we draw a structure for the following compound. So for part C, I used table 16.1 on page 742 of the textbook. In this table, it has what to do when you have two functional groups in a compound. So they have suffixes and prefixes. So I first looked at the suffix of this compound, and the O8 indicated that we're going to have an ester, and the oxo indicated that it was either going to be a ketone or aldehyde, and then the pentane meant that there was going to be 5 carbons. So using that, I drew the structure, and we want to start number 1 near the low priority group. Near the high priority group. So the high priority group, looking at the table, is going to be the ester. So the ester is high priority. So the higher priority is where we're going to start numbering, and the higher priority is also what is going to get the suffix. So that is where the O8 came from at the end of the name. And then we have a ketone at carbon 3, and that ketone we get from oxo. Oxo is the prefix, so the lower priority group will get the prefix. I also chose to do question 2A, where we draw a structure for the compound. So the compound name has already been given, the 4-methyl, and so on, and so I used that to help me draw the structure. So I first looked at the hexane, which means we're going to have a 6-carbon parent chain. So that's the first thing I did is put out the 6 carbons, drew out the 6 carbons, and labeled them. So I then looked at the suffix. So the suffix is going to be given to the higher priority group. So Al, in this case, in using table 16.1 on page 742 in the textbook, has aldehyde, has the suffix Al. So we know that an aldehyde has to be the higher priority group, which is where we start numbering, so at carbon 1. So we're given that the high priority, which is what HP stands for. So the next thing I did before moving on is I took care of the 4-methyl, so on carbon 4, added the methyl there. And then to figure out what was going to be on carbon 5, to match this, we look at the prefix oxo. So an oxo can be a ketone or an aldehyde, but looking at the textbook, we know that based on what we already know with the high priority, we know that it's going to be a ketone because it's going to be a lower priority group. So the ketone is below aldehyde on the table, so that's going to be the low priority group, so we're going to have a ketone at carbon 5.